Alrighty, gang. We gotta talk about something. I just posted a reel which had a lot of resonance where I talked about why becoming successful on all levels in your life, why that's so scary. And that's super connected to this theme that I want to touch in this live on our addiction to suffering. So in the reel, I talk about the fact that it's so scary to be successful on all levels, meaning, for example, to do exactly what you love and earn a shitload of money. Because most people in this world believe that you can't have it all in life, that you have to make a choice. And when you live the reality that you don't have to make a choice, that you actually can have it all, you actually become a threat to others. Or put differently, you become a threat to this narrative that you can't have it all in life. And there's a sense of belonging that people share in the struggle, in the, life is really hard. And when we stop that, when we stop following that narrative, we lose a certain sense of belonging. And that is part of why I believe we're addicted to suffering. We're addicted to suffering because we have not yet learned to stabilize at being an ecstatically alive, divine human being. Because being that is a lot. It's very alive. It's changing in every single moment. It's constant evolution. And so there's so much less certainty, predictability, than if we live in this paradigm that, life can be kind of nice, but there's always something that is not yet it. That is part of the addiction to suffering, is looking at your life through a lens of duality, dividing your life into these are the good parts, these are the bad parts. This is what I like about my life, this is what I don't like about my life. Or the fact that you will always find a hair in the soup. I don't know if that's a saying in English, but it's definitely one in German. Right? Like, your life can be great on a lot of levels, but there will always be this one thing that's still a challenge. To me, that's addiction to suffering. Because the exact same experience could be, whoa, my life is fucking amazing on all levels, and here's the next area that I'm going to bring into even more alignment. I don't need to have this frame of here's this thing that I'm really struggling with and it's really hard and oh my God. Because guess what? Once you fix this one thing that you believe is the last hair, you're going to find the next one. It's a frame. It's a way of looking at life, and we're addicted to it. Because it gives us a certain sense of orientation, at least our smaller self, or our ego, or our protective patterns, however you want to call them. And I know this for myself so intimately, when I see people really thriving, my ego wants to look for the hair in the soup in their lives. It wants to be but it can't all be good. And then when I find it, I'm like, see, I knew it. They're struggling as well. This kind of collective belonging of, we're all struggling. And if I would have listened to this live 3, 4, 5 years ago, I would have felt really triggered and upset. Because I would have needed to be validated in my experience that I'm struggling, that there are challenges. And so I want to be really clear. I'm not saying that I'm living a life without challenge. And I believe not a single person on this planet is living a life without challenge. But the way that I meet this challenge, the way that I meet areas in my life where I know there's so much more to expand into, I don't need to meet that as this is a problem. There is something wrong here. It shouldn't be like this. I can meet it as, here I'm being called into my next evolution. you don't have a problem. And unless you're literally starving or you have some like real urgent needs that need to be taken care of, what if there was no problem? And the challenge in this is that it can feel lonely to look at it in this way. And I also know that there's a lot of people who mentally look at life in this way, but you feel it's not embodied. It just feels massively off. Like they're saying, oh, my life is perfect, or wow, they're meeting a challenge in their lives and they're saying, wow, what a beautiful opportunity. But you can feel in your body, they're massively contracting and they're just saying something that they're not feeling. And this is not what I'm talking about here. This is not about pretending to not experience emotions or pretending that everything that arises I immediately have a full yes to. It's just understanding that there's always the possibility to look at anything that is happening in my life from the lens of this is perfect and I might not understand it yet. But that is much more vulnerable and much more lonely in a sense than if we always have something to complain about. If you look at what people are talking about when they are talking to each other, it's a lot about things that the problems that they have, or this that they complain about, or that is not working. We bond over our struggles. And again, I'm not saying we have to pretend that everything is perfect, that we're not feeling challenged. But it's very different from feeling like my life is never complete. So it's like my life is perfect, even in the imperfection, even in the evolution, even in, yeah, of course there's things to change. Why do you think you came here as a soul? To learn, to grow, to evolve, to expand your consciousness. And so the perfection is not the absence of challenges. It's a way of looking at life. And that is literally a choice. That is not like nothing in your life has to change right now to be able to shift to that perspective. That is what I mean by our addiction to suffering. We are choosing to look at our lives in a particular way. And we constantly confirm it to each other. And so true compassion for me is seeing someone in the challenge that they're facing without reducing them to this or confirming their story about the challenge that they're facing. It's a very different way of looking at life. And I just believe that that's what is happening to us as a humanity in this present time, is we are learning to become ecstatically alive human beings that fully remember our divine essence, our divine core. And when you do that, you cannot look at your life as, oh, these big problems. You see perfection, you see beauty, you're in deep gratitude. And I'm going to tell you a story. I shared this on Facebook, but not on Insta because the post was too long. I hosted the Embodied Business Leadership Summit last month. And I could tell you two different versions about the summit. I could tell you it was a massive success. 1,000 people joined. I had incredible connections with the speakers. I got such beautiful feedback from the participants. I had a 5-figure plus launch on the back end of it. That is one side. The other side was, or is, I was hoping for a lot more participants. I was like, I want there to be at least 5,000 people. The reality also is that 200 to 250 people who joined the summit unsubscribed from my email list. So my email list went like from 300 something to over 1,000. And then they unsubscribed again. And given that I had focused on the summit for almost 3 months, a lot of my energy, a 5-figure plus launch, actually wasn't that much. So disappointment was present for me. So I sat with the disappointment. I honored it. And at the same time, I understood that's not the whole perspective. It does not feel true in my body to say the summit was a failure or a disappointment. Yeah, there are things that I can absolutely improve. Like, for example, what I pitched to the people who joined the summit on the back end was a full year business program, which is the most amazing business program out there. But people who just got to know me 2 weeks ago, that's a pretty big ask for them to jump into a year-long business container. So lots of massive learnings there of things that I will do differently next time. And yeah, there was disappointment present. And when I can meet that disappointment, I can zoom back out and be like, yeah, I was hoping for more, but holy shit, how amazing was it that 1,000 people joined this fucking experience? Right? So yeah, there were challenges there. I include them. I don't pretend they're not there. This is classic spiritual bypassing, and this is why I believe a lot of people feel deeply opposed to similar things as I'm sharing here when other people talk about it. And I did as well. And if it's disembodied and if it's not really felt and truthful, then yeah, it's just words. Hey, Reno is back here. Nice to see you. I see some other people being here present with me live. If you want to drop something in the comments, appreciate you being here. So I want to talk about what is the way out of this addiction. So the first thing is, this is a fucking choice. Suffering is a choice. And I know that that's a hard pill to swallow. And sometimes we have not yet found the switch. Sometimes it feels like it's not available. I'm just suffering and I don't know how to get out. And that's okay. But it's still accepting the reality that suffering is a choice. The second thing is understanding, why do we stay in suffering? Because it gives us belonging, because there's the story that everyone is suffering and somehow we are all connected through that. It's also much more predictable. It gives us more something we can relate to. We'll get to your question in a moment, Ryan. Because being an ecstatically alive divine human being is 100% meeting the unknown in every single moment and embracing that you're going to change every single second. You are not in control of how your life unfolds. And that is scary. That takes like a practice to lean into that and to trust. So staying in the suffering and in the small story is safer in a way. All right, Ryan is asking, what is your process for sitting in the disappointment or any negative emotion? It's quite simple. I let it move through my body. So what I find really important is not to go into the stories of the negative emotion. So if I notice that there's a story connected to it, I uncover it and I crash it. Like, oh, not that many people signed up for the summit and that means XYZ, or this is proof that. So I uncover the stories that are connected to the emotion. And that does not mean I try to push the emotion away. It just means I'm discerning between what is like just the physical experience of what's moving through me and what is the interpretation and like the how I will translate this into my future that my mind does with that experience. And then I just give my body space to release it, because that is how I look at it. Like anything that comes up that does not feel like a true expression of who I am, for me is a like a cleansing, like an old story that I'm letting go of. So that's the frame that I'm holding. And then I'm just allowing my body to digest the disappointment, to digest the discomfort. And so I do whatever I can to create more space in my body, because anything uncomfortable that we experience is only really truly uncomfortable if we don't have enough space around it. I can have the most intense emotions flowing through me, But if I remember how much bigger I am than this one emotion, it's just there. It's just one of so many things. So I track where I start to contract into the experience of disappointment, pain, whatever, like suffering, whatever flavor we have of that. And I remember that even in this being challenged, I can choose to open up. I can choose to expand. So it's like we have this habitual patterns in our body of like, okay, here comes a uncomfortable experience, and our habitual pattern is to contract. What if in that moment I keep on breathing, I welcome the experience, but I remember that I'm so much bigger than it? Then it has enough space to actually just flow through me and be released. And that can go really fast. And sometimes it takes some time. But as long as I remember I'm so much bigger than this one thing, it's not really a problem. All right, let's see. Elizabeth is saying, love how and what you share, and was just looking for a one-on-one offer of yours. I want to be seen, but there's so many borders. Would love to talk about them with you and hear your perspective. Yeah, awesome. Send me a message, Elizabeth. I actually literally talked about this in a live yesterday. I currently don't have a one-on-one offer of mine on my website, but send me a message and I'm happy to talk with you. So the last thing I want to share here is, and I appreciate so many people of you here in this live. That's awesome. What really helps, what is the biggest game changer for me, is to surround yourself with people who are committed to no longer live in this paradigm of suffering from a deeply embodied, truthful, authentic place. Because, yeah, most people currently in this world are addicted to suffering and don't even want to leave that. But if you surround yourself with people who call you up, who don't let you stay in your small story, it's going to get harder and harder to actually stay in there. So, of course, you can do it by yourself, but why would you want to? It's so much harder. So find those people. Whenever I would meet someone in my life who embodies a higher consciousness than me, where I feel deeply inspired, I do anything to get them into my life. I've paid like about 40,000 euros this year alone in mentorship because it helps me grow so much faster. But it's not just mentors, like find friends, find peers. Just connect to people who have a similar vision of how you want to live through life. My fiance, for example, who I've been together with for 8 years, like I wouldn't be where I am at today if it wasn't for her, because we share such a strong shared commitment to living our highest vision and calling each other out when we don't. And if you resonate with me and my work, then take a step towards me. Like literally send me a message and we'll figure out what is your next step into my world. Because suffering does not have to be our reality. Awesome. All right. You beautiful, beautiful people. Appreciate you staying with me for so long. My internet is actually going to go off in a couple of minutes, so I'm going to end this here. Yeah, appreciate you being here. Send me a message if you want to dive deeper into this work, and I'll definitely come on again here on Insta. Sending you so much love until then, and have the most beautiful of evenings.